Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is going to be a 1v1 game on the map Autumn Leaves. I'm going to be playing human against this guy, Jaconda88, and I'm going to try the 3 militia tower rush. Now this, since my friend Jake used to do this a fair bit, it's actually got nerfed because they reduced the they reduced the duration on militia, which means that they are actually going to run out of militia form before they really get to where I want them to go on a lot of maps. But anyways, I'm going to build a lumber mill. I'm going to sort of put 1 on gold, 2 on gold, another on lumber. Probably need to, you just basically need to have enough to get 3 towers going. See, they finish, the militia form runs out before they're in position. And this is all about timing, right? You know, this can be sort of a game of seconds, right? If you miss it by just like 2-3 seconds or something, all of a sudden their hero gets out, an archer gets out, you don't repair in time, stuff like that happens. So, and I'm going to start him in here. I try to build him in such a way where he can't build. It looks like he had left an opening. I try to build it in such a way where he cannot build in Ancient of War really close to the towers. He doesn't really, he had already started an Ancient War over here. I thought, actually,
job's done.
Was kind of surprised that he was doing an a late altar build. But anyways, let's take a look at his resources versus mine. I've got enough to build all 3 of the towers. You know, you can harvest gold quicker than lumber on a per peasant basis, right? So yeah, in terms of like trying to figure out how to, I canceled that so I could repair. I was actually at like 0 lumber there for a second. And you have to be able to repair this because the damage output is just too quick. So he starts hitting a peasant, pull the peasant back. If he's not hitting the tower, it doesn't really matter. Losing the peasants is a problem though, but notice he doesn't have a hero. If he had put a wisp on a tavern, so he could get a tavern instantly and have him, you know, I don't know the timing. If it's like, the tavern here is actually, there's a delay when you can actually get them, probably for balance purposes, right? If you were human and you put like power build your altar and then go grab the tavern here, that would be insanely quick. At quite a cost, I think, but as it is, there's a delay when you can actually hire the tavern. So yeah, he's finally got the tavern here. He picks a tinker. I don't think the tinker is the pick. If he picks the tinker, he definitely has to drop that pocket factory out of range of the towers, because as you're going to see, he's going to drop it in range of the towers. You just focus it and it literally dies in like 1, 2, 4 volleys. Yeah, 4 volleys from 3 towers, it's gone. No robo-goblins even came out of that pocket factory. So I'm sure he was, I built a farm in there. This is the reasoning, also part of the building in a certain way. I should have built this tower to block the hole right there perhaps, but I guess getting back and forth that way also is pretty valuable for me. So the fact that a tinker could fit in there was a surprise. But anyways, yeah, the peasant kill. And now I'm going at the Tree of Life, right? You know, he's got to rebuild his Ancient War. He's got, you know, he's got plenty of gold and lumber and supply to work with. He doesn't have 100 gold, and he's probably going to get one. Again, he didn't learn his lesson. He put the pocket factory right back in the range of every, not even just 1 tower, which, you know, if he puts in range of 1 tower and he repairs it, and then the wisp is out of range, that's one thing, and he's going to get the robo goblins. They're going to be, you know, a little bit close. They're going to be distracting, but they're not really going to be at level, you know, level 1 tinker. They're not going to be enough on their own to, if there's nothing else, like there's not a bunch of archers behind it, there's no way that that's going to be enough to crack these towers, right? So yeah, like I said, he's got a bunch of resources, but he's struggling to leverage it, right? These towers have 5 base armor at the start. They have 500 health. They outrange the archers. That's 700 range. The archers only have 500. So, yeah, but he's going to find a beetle or whatever. I think that means like humans or something. I don't know what's going to happen. Whatever the race. Yeah, I'm going to say that's why I'm a champ. Let's go. He's going to continue the troll chat. That's a bit graphic, but it's going to get a little bit more graphic, but it's going to get pretty funny at the end. And so he stays, and you know, If he wouldn't have resorted to calling me that, I probably wouldn't have made it like graphic, but but as it is, he did say some swear word at me, so I'm pretty sure. So, but anyways, I don't have a barracks or an altar yet. I should have probably been building one by now, because I do have 1,000 gold and 100 lumber. I could have just about afforded both a barracks and an altar. But and also the other things, you need to be aware of him running at your base. But running across the map with archers, 2-3 archers and a tinker, that's the other counter to do it, right? If he has like 2-3 archers, it's gonna really feel bad. But my base, this is like a YOLO play. Like my base is very unlikely especially if I don't do it. If I'm not cautious, if I just do it greedily like I did with 0 towers in my main, I need to be aware of that timing. If he just sends his archer away, I need to be paying attention. And if I see that, I have to build a tower in my main. Because if I don't build a tower in my main, I'm basically base racing him with towers, and he's got like a tinker. And the other thing is my towers are stationary, so he can literally uproot his his tree of life, his ancients of war, and run away from the towers. And if he builds away from the towers, these towers are not hitting these buildings at all. They're not hitting these buildings at all. He could uproot, and he could literally uproot and go creep this, right? If he manages to knock my economy, down and maybe knock the lumber mill down. Well, I'm gonna build a lumber mill up here for these workers, but now if he does abandon it, I can try to expand it, right? So he probably does have to sort of leave an archer or 2 in here or something like that to make sure I don't expand it, right? But notice if I get like 1 or 2 towers up in my base before he tries that, and I have militia, it's going to be a challenge. And if he just sends archers, or if he just sends his hero, the tinker especially, I should be able to counter with just he's going to build 2 trees of life. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like if right now, I'm building stuff now, and his economy is pretty much done. But look, just imagine if he had not lost his heroes. If he had the resources to do this and didn't lose his heroes, or his hero, and his archers, 1 tinker and 2 archers, they could put a little pressure here. The militia are going to save it now that the tower's up. But if the tower isn't up, even a tinker.
Ready for action.
Well, not really a tinker, because if I have enough militia, I can just kill the pox factor really quick, and it's not really a big deal. But like a panda, for example, maybe a dark ranger, a keeper of the grove, and demon hunter, right? All these other heroes, maybe a little bit more dangerous. If I don't kill the pox factor and he gets out like 3-4 robo goblins, that's pretty dangerous and really quite annoying against the to try to fight with militia, right? So I'd probably have to try to stay inside the base as far away as I can. If he throws the pox factory really close to the militia, well, I'll just kill it quick, right? But if he throws it like out here, for example, maybe here or maybe here, somewhere over here, and he sends the robo goblins in, it's going to be getting to militia form, and then getting out to the pox factory. It's going to be a bit of travel time, which means he will probably get out 1 or 2 or 3 robo goblins, and he probably, he can sort of block it with an archer here or his hero here and stuff. Try to give it just a little more time to get those robo goblins out. Like I said, the tinker is quite dangerous when the pox factory stays up. It's just that it is a massive sort of, hey, destroy this, and this hero is basically, not very good unless he's retrained or whatever. Right, I mean, he's level 6, so that's obviously a much different scenario, but at level 1, right, he's got decent stats, but he's just like every, he's decent move speed, decent damage, he's intelligent, blah, 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 but he's not going to be quite as irritating as some heroes, but anyway, I didn't pick up the Dark Ranger. I wasn't going like just to, do whatever. I never really matter. I doesn't have an army, so. Honestly, I guess the best pick would have been a Beastmaster with the Scout Owl, or that's not called Scout Owl. It's called Hawk or whatever. So then I can just fly it around and find his buildings. But I'm not actually going to prioritize that. I'm just going to get a building really quick. But after that, I'm going to just sort of meander around a little bit, talk a little bit of stuff. The fact that this game is only halfway over sort of tells the story. I'm going to test some things, like one thing I'm going to test is, can I just do this with strength light? Into level 1 Darker. And it turns out I definitely can do that. Actually, quite efficiently. Turns out, like, one more strength light is basically got me the full health, I think. So yeah, I could, if I'd have, you know, it would have cost me a bunch of mana. Like, I think I got to cast it like 3 or 4 times. I wasn't paying close attention just there, but yeah, I could definitely do it. And then, you know, am I attacked to tier 2? No, not yet. Oh, I killed those ancients. Well, I was like, how did I get to level 2 from just that? He's got the Tree of Life behind this. I actually don't think I ever find that one. I tell him, he's sort of talking, you can tell it's sort of broken English. He said something about Vladimir, something, Putin, the best president ever, or something. I asked him if he supports the war, they said no, it's confusing. But anyways, I'm gonna get into all that stuff. But,
upgrade complete.
Flag on the video, or, you know, the sort of AI.
Our forces are under attack.
Anyway, Vladimirovich Putin. But anyways, I'm gonna say something about Top Gun and really get in with the Maverick thing. But anyways, yeah, the fact that you can just creep that with level 1 Dark Ranger and do whatever with the other units, that's an interesting, you know, that's with him just using, you know, Bloodlust. Did he? I assume yeah, he did use Bloodlust. I was trying to think, did he use Bloodlust? Even with Bloodlust, I was able to, like, you know, go, you know, do that pretty well. So, you want to take some damage before you start using Drain Life, because, you know, for, like, you don't want the first second to be basically sort of wasted, right? But, like, so, basically 1 volley or something, and you're going to be good. To get the value out of it, the healing of it. So yeah, you know, the strategy is, I mean, YOLO play is super risky. He would have, probably if he goes in regular time, he'll go much better shape. He's larger right there, his sugar pops out and he dies. If you buy it, it'll pop out right there, just like, it's like I said, it's only time, right? If he has to lose like 10 seconds to go from the tavern to his main base, or something like that. Now, obviously, or typically, if you're not human, you can't actually get the tavern here quicker. It's just, I don't know, the travel distance, if it's going to be worthwhile to do it. I guess it would actually be, because if you could start a second Moonwell, and then you can uproot your Tree of Life, right? You get an Altar Ancient of War, or Altar Moonwell, Ancient of War, second Moonwell, and then uproot, and then you maybe get 20 lumber for 2 archers or something. Well, actually, no, you don't have to worry about the lumber. You just have to worry about the gold, right? Because if you're going to uproot your ancient, you'll still be harvesting lumber. You just won't have any gold income. Right? So sort of do the math and figure out, okay, I have enough gold to get this many archers, and then I can uproot and reroot the tree near the tower and start smacking it with the ancient, the Tree of Life. Because the Tree of Life does something like 45 damage or something, I think, average a hit or whatever. I don't know. It's a big, sort of a pretty good amount of damage. And it's normal damage, so if it's hitting, you know, if it's hitting workers, it's doing,
are under attack.
It might be doing like close to like 60 or 70 damage, whatever. Where are you at, Ruski? Making this workshop. I want to make the comment about the Top Gun Maverick here in a second. He said he can't understand English, and I do realize that it looks like his English is not like perfect, right? But it does look like he has a sort of a somewhat grasp of English. I don't know, Tom Cruise, that's probably a fairly well-known name. I mean, he's an actor, so it is what it is, but yeah, I don't know much about like Russians and their awareness of, I assume a sort of superstar like Tom Cruise will be known, but anyway, Tom Cruise gyro.
Our forces are under attack.
Here he comes, going in for a missile. And I find this one tree, and I'm not gonna make another one. You know, in the movies, I think he had, you know, he could have had like you know, a couple of other ones, especially in Maverick. He had, I think, 2 other people with him.
Our forces are under attack.
Yeah, I think he had like 2 sort of other missions or whatever. But anyways, the bomb upgrades, I can actually hit the tree with this. Tom Cruise apparently didn't pack his missiles in this strip. For his bombs, I don't know, but typical Russian no defense versus Tom Cruise.
Research complete.
Dude, I don't understand your language. I don't know, man. That's seems like you probably do. I don't know. understand it well enough to understand. I'm just messing around here. So anyways, that's gonna be the end. I got castle just because whatever. That's the bomb upgrade is a castle, so it's pretty good.
Our forces are under attack.
Already made flying machines like way better too than they used to be. All the flag.
Our gold
Flag
mine
cannon
is
and
running
the
low.
bomb upgrade used to be in tier 2. So, and they made a bunch of health and damage bonuses and stuff like that. I don't really think they needed it, but 43 and 1. Oh my goodness, what did I lose? A peasant? I think I did lose a peasant. Man, it was almost flawless there. And then at the end, he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you know, I was rude or whatever. I just don't like playing that style." I was like, "Oh, good game, dude. You know, all good. You know, I do understand there's obnoxious things. If this strategy, like, if it basically sort of just randomly blind counters, as some people say, I didn't scout or anything. I just did it, right? So if he was already prepared with like a well-built base and like, you know, probably a regular tavern, sort of not a regular tavern, but a regular elf hero build, not a tavern hero build. You know, he's probably in better shape to defend. Maybe not. I think his hero choice was poor and his execution was poor with it too. But yeah, the fact that if you lose to something that seems so goofy, like I'm gonna run in and build 3 towers in your base right at the start. This basically doesn't work against any other race, to be honest. Especially wouldn't work against human. Really doesn't work against undead. And against orc, they would have to build their base incredibly poorly, and their build order incredibly bad for you to pull this off, right? You know, basically they would need their burrow would need to, you know, not be in range to cover, you know, most of the base, basically the behind the gold mine situation, right? If your burrow is like near your gold mine, and it sort of reaches, you know, the back of the base and sort of the middle of the base. Then you're pretty good. Because if I have to build it away from the gold line, it's not probably, especially away from the burrow, which probably will be finished in time to start hitting stuff. It's probably not going to work, right? So I haven't really tested it much against orc. The orc burrows are heavy armor, right? But they're going to have more workers than you, and they're going to have more resources than you because they haven't sent, like, you know, 3 out of the first 5 peasants across the map in militia form. So they will have more gold and eventually more lumber than you. And they can just build their own burrows, right? Burrows are cheaper than towers. So if they build a second burrow, that's something. If they go for like the Altar War Mill burrow, like delayed headhunters, you might be able to pull it off depending on their burrow location. The Farseer is quite strong with the wolves and the range attack. The wolves are going to be very, very good and very effective at killing the medium armor workers. So, and the fact that the Farseer is ranged, the fact that the orc can get a Voodoo Lounge for really efficient healing. I mean, that's, you know, I think it really just comes down to, can the Farseer kill the workers and then, you know, just ping enough damage. You bring more workers, and especially if their burrow is in range. If their burrow basically has good coverage, I just don't think you can get away with it. But if they build a war mill, and then they build an altar, and then their barracks is late, you know. But headhunters are very quick. They're very quick to build. They're very cheap, and their range and stuff pretty good. The damage good. The health, you know, they're 2 food. And the other thing is, orc towers actually outrange human towers. So if he does in fact have a war mill, and he hasn't started his barracks, he actually might be able to afford 1 tower. And if he places a tower, I don't know if I say perfectly, but there's probably a bunch of spots to build that tower where it's in range of it can actually hit your tower, and your tower can't hit it. Now, it's much easier to do that if the tower, well, I say easier. It's easier to judge the distance if the tower that you want to attack is done, because you can move your peasant just in range of his tower, and then move it out slowly. Make sure you don't lose the peon, but move the worker away until the human tower can't hit him, and then right there build your tower. So that way you'll have that, like, basically 1 extra space that give, you know, the orc tower has 800 range. Personally, I think that's bad sort of balance design. I don't know if there was like any real hard, I mean, you know, I don't want to criticize the balance because the balance is decent, right? But in terms of balance, it seems quite bad. It doesn't seem like a good idea to give one race like a little bit of extra range on the towers that are basically, doing. Actually, I think they do quite more DPS, honestly. But yeah, the tower that is basically like the same type of structure, and stuff, and it sort of can be a lame type of playstyle. To actually, your towers can beat their towers, and they cost like basically the same. That seems bad to me. But again, the game is balanced in its sort of totality of all the, sort of details and mechanics and stuff. So it's like, well, it's hard to really say, because Orc can, human gets access to defend in tier 1. So is the extra range for that purpose? Because Orc doesn't have defend. But then Orc gets access to basically, they build their demolishers out of the same, sort of like a mortar team type unit, out of the same barracks that they were able to build in tier 1. So, and it does require a war mill in tier 2, but, so they do get access to siege potentially slightly quicker than the human, right? But of course, in a tower rush this early, that's not really the issue. But again, this is a really weird, right, sort of situation. You can't really tower rush a human, so I guess in that sense, it doesn't, in that context, it doesn't really matter, because the human will just call to arms if you try this against a smart human. And if you have to build the towers out of his vision, it's not, it's not really the same threat level, right? So, they're stationary, so there's all kinds of other counters to that, right? So, but anyways, like I said, if he just gets one tower up out of range of your towers, and he can kill the one, then he can actually maybe just build another tower in range, so that it's, that seems kind of annoying. Whether or not they can actually do that with the standard, like, Headhunter build or whatever, is up in the air. I think the burrow, if well positioned, the burrow and the strength of the Farseer is probably enough to just defend it, right? Without any kind of fancy, like, oh, I'm going to get a second barrack, or sorry, I'm going to get a second burrow, or I'm going to have my war mill up in time, or whatever. Like I said, unless they build a war mill like immediately, which they probably aren't, like literally the first building, the timing's not really going to work out super well for that. So, and also the war mill costs 205 gold, I think. So it's like, it does cost more gold than the human love mill. So, yeah, if you're building your tower and they already have some towers finished, they can build they can power build another tower and repair it and stuff. So it's like, they can actually repair it when it's upgrading. So once they get that's the other sort of interesting thing about the human tower rush, is if you were building Orc towers, they would literally have to completely finish like a pretty long build time, right? Whereas the human tower, the way they do it is they build a scout tower that has a pretty short build time, and then they upgrade it, and then I think it is pretty vulnerable when it's upgrading, right? So I don't know how the armor works out, but yeah, basically it's quite, it's almost like it was building, but the difference is the workers are free to repair it at that point, right? Or they're free to go harvest, resources, which is not something I really thought about too much before, but maybe that's why the Orc Tower is a little bit better range, because you do have to spend the extra, time for the worker to sit there and build it like the full time, right? Well, a Scout Tower is built relatively quickly. I don't know if it's like, half the time or whatever it is. But anyways, that's quite a quirk, a difference about the towers. But the main thing in this context, in the context of this strategy, is the fact that you can, all those workers that build those towers, they're ready to repair, which is actually important if it's getting attacked. Which again, like the timing, the guy had an archer. You're gonna, against a regular sort of build, you're typically gonna be dealing with at least an archer or two and a hero, right, at certain timings. So they're gonna have there's gonna be a window where they should be able to get free shots on your towers before they finish, right? Which, if they can cancel one, is a really big deal, because losing 1 out of 3 towers is like a third of the damage output. And as you saw, in this case it wasn't quite as important, because like he messed up his hero. Like, he picked the Tinker and he threw the Pock Factor in there. That was a really poor choice in execution of it, right? If he was gonna do that, honestly, he might have just ran from the tavern to my base with a Tinker or a Tinker and archers, and sort of disrupted me that way. But anyways, that was poor, so it didn't really matter. But against a competent player, these little details, like how easy it is to get in and start hitting the towers, especially if he's got like a melee hero, like a Tinker, a Demon Hunter, whatever, some treants, right? Being able to block it out with farms. There's all these little details. How close he can build an Ancient War, so the archers are popping out. Maybe he can take, if he can build Ancient War close enough to actually hit, to be rooted and hit the towers, that's actually really bad. So you don't want that to happen. So, and you also want your towers to already be in range of the Tree of Life and or the Entangled Goldmine, along with, if possible, a Moonwell, Wisps, right? The more things you can hit, typically the better it is. But the critical thing that you need to be able to hit is the Tree of Life. And it's also nice to be able to shift targets over and hit the Entangled Goldmine if you want to do that. Because, actually killing the Tree of Life is tougher because it has more hit points, and I don't think it actually has. I'm not sure if it has more armor. I think it doesn't have more armor. It might actually have less armor. So yeah, obviously killing the Tree of Life is great. Repairing the Entangled Goldmine is free as well. So maybe it isn't. It just really sort of depends on what they're repairing, right? If you start hitting the Tree of Life and they start repairing it, you can shift and hit the Entangled Goldmine and make them move. And if they move to the Entangled Goldmine, a lot of times you can hit the Wisps. So if you can't hit the Wisp when they're repairing the Tree of Life, but you can hit them if they're repairing the Entangled Goldmine, then that's what you probably want to hit. Because if you kill the Wisp, then they can't repair, right? And it's it's easier to kill Wisp than it is to kill either of those buildings or archers and stuff. Now, you don't want to let them get a massive amount of archers where they can actually destroy the towers. But like I said, it's all about doing the most damage you can. While they're hitting you with archers, hit the archers. If their hero is like a keeper, go for the keeper. I wouldn't really say go for the Demon Hunter, but sometimes you might have to because they move the archers, blah, blah, blah. Kill the archers, Demon Hunter's there. You'll have to go for the Demon Hunter, basically. Right, but you want to be focusing your damage where it's doing the most harm to the opponent, right? Killing the Wisp is very fast, right? The Wisp has like 0 armor, the lowest hit points of anything they've got. Knock the Wisp out, that's their economy, right? If you kill all the Wisps, where you kill half the Wisp, that's pretty good. But also realize if it's not Gold Wisp that you're killing, they're just buying time for more archers probably, and they're also freeing up supply for more archers, right? If they're supply blocked and they are waiting on another Moonwell, and you kill 2 archers, well now they can build another you kill 2 Wisps, now they can build another archer, right? So, but if the Wisp kills are there for free, it probably takes like 3 volleys. Well, I don't even know if it takes 3 volleys. It might just take 2 volleys from the 3. But anyways, you're just trying to focus your damage where it does the most, has the most effect. And the biggest thing you can do if you can manage to pull it off is to destroy their Tree of Life. But as I say, the problem is it is basically the worst target for you to focus, almost. It only has 2 base armor, I think, as an Ancient, because they don't have Nature's Blessing in Tier 1. And a lot of times people just won't even get Nature's Blessing that quick. Anyway, but anyways, in Tier 1, they're not going to have Nature's Blessing, so 2 base armor. It has a lot of hit points, has more hit points than any other building that it's going to have at that particular point. But if you kill it, that's the big, that's 10 supply, he's out. That's his ability to build workers. That's his ability to mine gold. And it's his ability to tech, right? And it's his ability to use a TP scroll as well if that's his only one. So it's like killing his economy completely. Generally, will be enough to give you the edge, right? It's not that if you kill his Tree of Life, you necessarily always do win, though, because if you kill his Tree of Life, but you were not able to, tower your base, and now he has, 6 archers and a Tinker, well, now he just runs over to your base, and are you able to defend yourself against that? Actually, probably not. But what you can do as he's running across the map is hope that you have enough resources to build a town hall in his base. Because you've got all the towers at his base. Now, they may or may not be in a good position. If you see that's going to happen, if you think that's going to be the likely outcome where he's going to try to counter attack your base and, hide buildings or move buildings or whatever, you sort of should start thinking about putting some towers. Start to think about putting towers in good positions, defensive positions, if you had a town hall there. right? Because at this point, the positioning has been to attack the enemy's base. It hasn't been to defend your own base, right? So, but anyways, or alternatively, like getting an altar up and a barracks up there. Because if you can actually build units, it is gonna. You do have to be careful though, because if he's got a bunch of archers and like a level 1 or 2 hero, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 footies may not be enough to really adequately defend, depending on your tower position. But yeah, the towers are generally going to be pretty sturdy once they're up, and there's a bunch of them, of course. And if he has to run all the way across the map, that's a lot of lost time. And you can't actually just call to arms and run your militia, right? So you basically split, you know, you spend a lot of time, you know, running across the map early game with your workers, and then maybe a second round of workers coming across, which, and now if he wants to run across the map with his archers and Tinker, you know, that he's going to have to make up, you know, that's sort of a cost that you've already sort of already paid. So if you manage to, you know, sort of crack his base, well, now he's going to, you know, his options of going to counterattack you if he was already all the way at his base, you know, that's bad. Now, if he goes straight from the tavern to your base, that's different, and that's probably a good reaction to this. Just uproot his tree of life, move it, make sure he doesn't build any more buildings close to the towers. If he's got 2-3 archers, you know, the more gold he can bang before he does this, the better. And that's the other thing. If he bang, you know, if he just sits there and he's like, okay, the towers are gonna get up, I'm gonna tank, I'm gonna tank as much damage on this tree of life before it dies, and then I'm gonna be sure it doesn't die. I'm gonna uproot it, go eat some trees to repair for free, and in the meantime, I'm gonna make as many archers as I can. I'm gonna make my buildings, you know, reasonably far away from the towers, so they can't hit them for free. The buildings that I build, you know, after I see the towers, and then he just goes and counterattacks your base. And now it's like, well, can you defend yourself? In this case, it would have been a stretch, right? Because I played it super greedy. It didn't look like he was going to do that, though, but I played it really greedy. If he would have done that, it would have been quite challenging because, you know, just 3 or 4 towers, like I said, he can uproot his tree. He can uproot his tree and walk it all the way across the map. Now, that'll take forever, but if he can literally stop me from getting any towers in my main base and kill most of those workers, the workers will probably get him to level 2. And then if not, he, you know, gets squeezed in a creep camp. But basically, the workers probably get him to 2. And then it's like, do I have enough resources to build a town hall in the opponent's base? If I do, that's probably what I got to do. But he has uprooted his tree, so he doesn't actually have to pay for his, you know, it's going to take a long time to walk across the map or to walk to an expo. He can uproot his Ancient of War and his Tree of Life, and he can probably creep a lot of expos on a lot of maps. Like that one in particular, the expo is easy to creep with those 2 buildings, right? Now, he will want to he'll want to get the last kills with his either hero or an archer or something. So that would be smart if he does that. But even if he doesn't, right, if I don't have an actual army, I can't really pressure him there. So that's the other problem is with the strategy is the stationary towers. You know, I think it is very, you know, I really don't think it's too hard to counter this if you know what you need to do, and you pick the right hero. Or if you pick a hero that maybe looks questionable if towers are up. It doesn't look questionable in the enemy base though, because I didn't build a tower. So that might be the thing. If there's 3 towers up and they don't attack them, you probably have to just assume they're going to your main and get a tower up there. Right, so it's going to be a race against time, right, and sort of a test of your micro, right. Is the Tinker the hero to sort of go with either Cluster Rockets or Pocket Factory to try to counter in the base? I think Pocket Factory actually is really strong. You just got to be sure you throw it in the correct spot, and you micro the sort of micro the Robo Goblins. Right, and you could actually bring, you might actually be able to bring a Wisp or 2 to repair the Pocket Factory too. Because if they get 1 tower up, they're like, aha, I got a tower up. And you're like, well, I'll just repair the Pocket Factory. So it's, you know, if you're hitting the Pocket Factory, it's still not going to just go down for free. So yeah, I think honestly to fend this off with Elf is pretty easy if you know what you're doing. But this guy, for whatever reason, didn't react well at all. He threw the Pocket Factory into all my damaged towers. He seemingly never thought to just go into my main base. Maybe it's just an assumption that, wow, this guy's he's got all these towers up, but somehow thinking he must have an must have an Archmage and footies are also coming from his base or something. But it's like, if you've done this strategy or if you've really seen the strategy in a replay or whatever, you should understand that, human just doesn't have infinite resources to send 3 workers across the map and still build everything he needs to do to get an army, as well as build 3 towers. Like, that is a massive lumber cost, and it's a massive gold cost, to be frank, and it's a massive hit to your economy to send your first 3 of your first 5 workers. Just think of 3 workers that could have been mining gold for, 40 seconds or whatever it takes to run across the map. It is a legit cost, and there's not very much room. Like, you saw I had to cancel a tower just to repair. It is a very tight build order, to be honest, right? Like, if you send 4 workers instead, you're missing out on one worker. If you send, all 5, you're not gonna have the lumber mill built in time probably. And even if you did get a lumber mill up and you sent all 5, like you build a peasant and build a lumber mill, you're not gonna have nearly enough resources to get those towers up. So, so it's not really gonna work. So, it would be funny, and I wonder if you could do this if you run across the map with like three militia, and you find their altar, and you try to block their hero in where he normally comes out. I don't know. I heard somebody say if you set the rallies like really close to the altar, like you can have your hero come out, at any point around the altar that you want. You just have to set the rally, really not like right near the edge of like right near the edge, right, of wherever you want them to pop out. So if that's the case, you couldn't really block them in with just 3 buildings because they'll just set the rally, right? But it would be funny to try that, to like if their hero pops out and he's literally blocked in with like a farm, an altar, and a barracks or something, or a farm and 2 barracks, or like a farm, or maybe 2 farms and a guard tower. That'd be pretty funny. But the farms don't really offer you, if you don't have like production buildings, the farms aren't really doing too, like 1 farm, okay, but 2 farms, you're probably not going to be getting enough value out of that, right? So maybe 3 towers. 3 towers around the altar would be, but like I said, the main thing you actually have to tank. You can't just kill their altar with the towers. You have to be able to stop their gold mining. If you can't stop the gold mining or really put serious pressure on it with every single tower that you build, basically, or the gold, Entangled Mine, the Tree of Life, it's not going to work, right? They don't even have to respond really all that well in that case, because they can just outmine you, right? They keep mining, they counterattack. You're not really pressuring. They lose the altar, so what? Who cares? Maybe you kill 1 Moonwell, so what? You kill altar and a Moonwell, who cares? If they're still mining and those towers can't stop the mining, it's not going to be enough, right? They'll just keep mining. They'll build another Moonwell. They'll build another altar. The hero is out, right? If you kill the altar and they lose the hero, that's really dumb on their part. But I wouldn't really count on that to happen. So, but anyways, all that stuff aside, Jaconda 88, the guy doesn't like this strategy. I didn't really know that. It's sort of bad news for him, because the other game he was actually AFK for. I got to his base and it looked like he had been AFK for maybe like 10 seconds or something, so he was really delayed on everything. And I was doing like an early footy Tavern Hero push, and I actually went Tinker footies, and I brought some militia, and I didn't even need the tower, but the footy and the militia showed up, and actually were able to cancel his Ancient of War, his first Ancient of War, or actually he might have finished it, but it died like really shortly after that. So I was like, that's how delayed he was. It might have been delayed more than 30 seconds, whatever. But anyways, I got a free kill a free win against him that way. So he's like probably already irritated, and this was like the next game. I was like, let me throw the real automatic, real YOLO rush at him and see what he does, and it worked out well. So it's a game, whatever. It is kind of funny to troll people. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't. Some of the appeal is to get people sort of riled up or whatever, and see what they're gonna say in the chat. It's pretty bad, but if them losing gets them angry, what can I really do, right? unless I just throw the games for them to win. Like that's dumb. Like I'm not gonna do that. Like, you know, I've thrown games to people before, like, but like, you know, for whatever reason, not a lot. Granted, like, you know, it's usually, you know, I'll do some really good, I don't just like TK myself or something frequently. I'll do something really silly like that. It's probably gonna lose, but it's funny, you know, and I don't really care. I won't care as much about winning. But I like this tower rush, for example. Honestly, it's pretty. You know, I don't know if it's a coin. It's probably not even a coin flip against like a decent player. It's probably, you know, it's probably more chance that they beat you than you beat them. But honestly, but so like I said, I didn't really care if I lost this game. It's like whatever. I'm just doing this goofy strategy. So, you know, I just wanted to see if I could do it. I haven't really done strategies quite like this a bunch. So. It's just kind of funny to try it out or whatever. It's an unranked game, you know, that's not affecting my MMR. It is going on the stats, though, which is an odd choice for Blizzard. They made, like, these unranked games, and they don't have, like, a separate tab on your, you know, on your profile for them. Like, they show, one thing, they show the unranked game, so it's not like, you know, if you're trying something, you know, and you don't want it to be on your record or whatever, the games are showing up on your profile, you know, on your game list. For one thing, and it's not like there's not like a separate tab for like your other games. Now, I think it does show if you don't have an MMR change after on the game list for this, then it is obvious that it is an unranked game. I think, but compared to a ranked one, which will show like how much MMR you gained or lost. But anyways, if you care about like just, you know, people like you doing certain things and like, ooh, I got a loss from this guy or whatever, it's like, you know, well, if that's something you actually care about, then, well, you know, you're just out of luck. Unranked or ranked, it's going to be on the profile. But I don't really care. You know, I just don't want these type of strategies to affect like my actual MMR rank, because a lot of stuff I'm doing is just really goofy. It's not that I really care a ton about my MMR, but like, you know, it's if you're doing strategies that you've literally never tried before, I don't think that's probably an accurate sort of basis to form your MMR, right? If I've done a strategy like never, basically, I've done this strategy probably like at this point now maybe like 5 times. Honestly, maybe more than that over the course of the entire history of the game, maybe. But honestly, I just don't really do this strategy very much because it's super like, you know, it's super, you know, either it works or it doesn't, and it doesn't seem super creative. It's funny when you get it to work, because it's just like you literally don't have a hero and you just run right at them and build towers, and it's like, oh, you're building towers in my base. And they still managed to get up and win. It's like, it is very irritating. I have had stupid build orders where this has happened to me very infrequently, right? Maybe once or twice, because you don't see it very much anyway, but it really is only with Elf, and it's really if you make a bunch of bad decisions, like, you know, maybe your Ancient of War is it's some, you know, far away sort of greedy camp, and then what the heck, here they come with all these workers and they're going to build these towers, and then you're like, oh no, you can't fit an Ancient of War in there, you know, your Ancient of War is far away already, so you're going to have to walk it. Every archer that comes out, you have to walk. I didn't like mind as much as I could and then uproot and get away, or I didn't uproot immediately to try to stop the towers completely. There's sort of 2 approaches you can go about it, like trying to get all the resources before you move your Tree of Life, if you have to move the Tree of Life, and like sort of distracting them with Wisp, you know, throw a Wisp or 2 at them, throw the archers in there to slow, you know, let yourself mine, and you know, force them to spread the damage and stuff like that. And then uprooting and getting the Wisp out of there and stuff like that. You know, like if you just do all that stuff, and also counterattacking, right? Figuring out when you can counterattack, or forcing them to build a tower in their base. Even if you just force them to build a tower in their base, that's a cost, right? So it's like, you know, if you threaten that, or you actually do attack them, force them to power build, mass repair, you slow down their ability to keep making more towers in your main, or repairing, and or building a town hall, and or building an altar, and or building a barracks, right? And you also potentially get level 2 with certain heroes. Basically any hero, that's going to be a pretty big jump. You start, you know, messing their economy up, the person that's towering you, and then you uproot your Tree of Life, you go creep an expo, you take the expo, and now you're actually mining and you actually have an army, presumably, and maybe you actually have most of your, you move your ancients to war, or they're already out of range. You have all your production buildings. Now, maybe you lost a Moonwell, and losing a Tree of Life is 10 supply out too, but you don't lose your Tree of Life. You uproot it and save it, hopefully. And also the Wisp. You get a lot of the Wisp out, hopefully at least 6 or 7 maybe, at least 5 for the gold mine. You get those Wisps out of there, and you don't have to build any more Wisps. Like I said, it's a game of inches sometimes. A Wisp save here, an archer save there, blah blah blah. An extra attack or two on a peasant, right, or a tower could have either made the difference between destroying it or not, canceling it or not, blah blah blah. So, uprooting it 2 seconds later could be a lost Tree of Life, right? Or uprooting it 5 seconds later could have been, no risk at all. You get to the tree, you eat a tree, you move the Ancient of, the Tree of Life or whatever, or the Ancient of War, whatever. You save it, you heal it up to full. Basically, you can heal it up to full eventually, eating trees, and you get free repair. The human is having to pay for his repair as it is, so, and he has to have the workers over there repairing them. So, right, if you kill the workers, killing the workers is a way to counter the strategy. You kill the workers, and then the damage is, they have to bring more workers, or the damage is basically permanent. Every little bit of damage you do is permanent on the towers. And they can't afford to lose the towers before your economy is dead, generally, because it's such a massive cost that they have to mess your economy up. They just have to torpedo it, or there's no way for them to recover. They don't have a hero, they don't have units, combat units. It's like da-da-da. So anyways, though, like I said, it's a goofy strategy. I wouldn't really recommend it. It's more of just if you're in the mood to have a little fun, to be sort of trolly, obnoxious. Some people call it laming, or whatever. But I mean, it's just a game mechanic where if they know what they're doing, it's not like, oh my gosh, there's no way to beat this, right? They should be able to beat it. It's just, do they have the knowledge and execution to do that? And have they had a build order that's not super vulnerable to this, which most of the time, most build orders aren't like, the worst is if they went to build their Ancient of War in a really far away place. That's about as bad as you can really do. I mean, or you can go for a full greed hunt build, like literally waiting until you have a Hunter's Hall or enough resources to build a Hunter's Hall and an Ancient of War. Alter Moonwell, wait for the resources. That is the exploitable build. If you're gonna go just pure hunts and not a tavern build, that's the worst. That's really the worst case scenario for you, especially if you build your base like sort of clustered, because you're not going to have the DPS to stop the towers. Like just the hero alone typically is not going to have the DPS to stop the towers, or even kill all the workers without taking massive amounts of damage, probably actually dying. So, and the timing is just weird. Like if your base build is bad with that, like they're literally, I think that could actually be a legit, like a viable, like, oh, if they're just gonna go pure hunts, you do this, their base build better be really good, or you can literally just shut them down completely, right? If you can build the towers like in range of the Ancient of War and the Tree of Life and maybe the Entangled Gold Mine, I don't know if they can, because you can maybe cancel the Ancient of War. If that Ancient of War gets canceled, that's really bad for them. And then you can start focusing the hero. If the hero pops out, you probably have to focus the hero, right? As it is. But I don't know. Maybe killing the Ancient of War is better, as long as your repair rate is good enough. I guess they could go for the workers. So it's, like I said, I haven't done the strategy enough to really say. But like I said, that's a really, really late sort of developing build order with the hunts, right? So that's the weakness. That's probably the only really weak. Or if you're literally taking with no Ancient of War, I guess that would be. I guess that would be strictly worse. But because you wouldn't have any units, but or any way to build them. But anyways, that's going to be the end of this audio commentary. Hopefully you found it enjoyable. Friend Jake, I'm sure we'll get a kick out of the Top Gun stuff and whatever if you've watched this far. Congrats, you are an ace Top Gun champion. You deserve a medal. I'm not going to give it to you, probably. Not a physical one anyway, but hopefully you're having a nice holiday. You're enjoying the holidays, and you'll have a Merry Christmas. So ScryMind signing out.